Hey there, I'm Sanjay and in this video I'm going to create new starter Pokemon for an India-based region. Ever since Pokemon has become a global phenomenon, Game Freak has made their regions explode in the main series game based on places outside of Japan, with the introduction of Unova region in Generation 5. And since then, we have gotten a region based on Hawaii, being Alola, and 3 regions based on European countries, being Kalos, Galar, and Paldea. There are much more real-world countries they could base their next region off in Generation 10, like somewhere in Africa, Australia, other Eastern countries like China and Korea, American states, or even in the Middle East. I would love to have a Pokemon region based on India. Game Freak likes patterns when it comes to designing their Pokemon, like regional birds, Pikachu clones, and stuff like that. One of those theorized patterns is that the grass starter line being based on extinct animals like dinosaur, Decidueye being based on an extinct owl, and Meowscarada being possibly based on an extinct lynx. So I wanted my grass starter to be based off an endangered species of the rhinoceros. The one-horned rhinoceros is native to India, but I didn't use one single rhinoceros species as inspiration for this Evo line. So the first stage is simple, bigger head and overall cutely proportioned. This first stage gives off a more battle-ready personality. As you can see, it has rocks in its design, and yes, it is going to be a rock-type Pokemon. I wanted the middle stage to look a bit derpy but also strong-looking at the same time. This design reminded me of Grottle a lot. I like giving middle stage evolution an element of design, object, or color that is in theme with the line but cannot be seen in the first or last stage. We can see this in Pokemon like Raboot that has a grey color that cannot be seen in Scorbunny or Cinderace, or Floragato having a yo-yo, or even Wartortle which has those different wing-like horns and different looking tail that is unique to it in its evolution line. This makes these middle stage forms not blend together with the first and final stage. So I altered the color of the rock and added the leaf on its back. I really love how this Pokemon ended up looking. It looks hefty, which I like. In its final stage, I made it into a gentle Pokemon. It roams around the land slowly and only attacks when disturbed. This Pokemon has the ability to heal others. It is really defensive because of its rock armor. This Pokemon can learn moves like Rock Blast, Rock Throw, and Smackdown. It uses its horn for both attacking and healing purposes. This Pokemon's signature move, Draining Horn, deals physical damage and heals the user based on the damage dealt. It can also heal the allies in double battle. This move can deal damage even through Protect and heals more when used on a protected Pokemon. This Pokemon can also learn moves like Spiky Shield, Earthquake, Stomping Tantrum, and Seed Bomb. I love how this grass starter line turned out, even though the concept is simple, being the horn of rhinoceros used for traditional medicine. I love how this Pokemon looks. Next is going to be the fire starter. The theorized pattern for this one is that each fire starter is based on animals from the Chinese zodiac. This is definitely one of the weakest theory out there, especially after the introduction of Huecoco, which is a crocodile Pokemon, and crocodile is not in the Chinese zodiac. But if they were to make an Indian fire starter based on the remaining animals in the zodiac, it would be a bull or a snake. But in this video, I am not going to make a fire starter based on this theory. I am going to make a peacock Pokemon instead. Yes, we just got a peacock duck starter in Generation 9, but I am going to do it anyway. The first stage is just a baby peacock. I did not want it to look exactly like a Torchic, and I don't think I achieved that completely, but it's still unique enough and I like the colors. I wanted it to have a fiery glowing pot on its body. Out of all the first stage starters I have designed in this video, this is my favorite one. For the middle stage, I didn't have much to go off of, so I focused more on the pose and energy of this Pokemon. I worked with its perspective and stuff like that, instead of the concept itself. Recently, I started reading the Pokemon Adventures manga and really enjoying it, so I was in the Gen 1 mode when designing this Pokemon, and I think you can see that in its design. This Pokemon has a fiery spirit and bursts out with energy when battling. It leaves a burned up trail when running. Even though I didn't have much to go off of when deciding this Pokemon, I still landed somewhere that I am satisfied with. In this stage, it looks like a pheasant. For the final stage, it fully becomes a peacock. Peacock is the national bird of India. The Indian peafowl is native to the Indian subcontinent. These birds are also known for their sexual dimorphism, as the male birds have huge bright tail feathers compared to the female bird. I'm not going to include the sexual dimorphism part for my starter though. Just like quack owl, peacock is known for their bright colors and elegance, so it is going to be part of its design by default. I wanted it to include colors like blue and purple in its design. In India, there is a festival of color known as Holi, but I'm not going to include that as part of my design, but I still want a similar vibe to it. So I made the spread tail feather a rangoli pattern. Also, the tail feather of a peacock is called as a train. So what is a rangoli, you may ask? As an Indian, allow me to explain. Proceeds to read off of Wikipedia. So rangoli is an art form that originates from the Indian subcontinent, in which patterns are created on the floor using materials such as powdered limestone, dry rice flour, colored sand, and other colored powders. It is a practice in Hindu household. It is mainly reserved for festivals like Diwali, which is the main festival I'm referencing for this Pokemon design, as it is the festival of light. I think making the train of a peacock as a rangoli is a great idea. I had trouble working with the colors for this one. It was hard for me to get the balance of the colors right. I do love the end result though. This Pokemon is going to be fire psychic type. At first, I wanted it to be fire flying, but I think the psychic type is more fitting for this design and concept. And peacocks are not known for their flight anyway. This Pokemon's signature move, Mythical Flare, deals special attack damage and raises the user's special defense. This move also causes the sunny weather to appear. It is said that peacocks dance right before it rains, which is not true. It is just peacock mating season and the monsoon coincide in regions like India. So I thought it made sense to cause sunny weather when this Pokemon uses its signature move. And that's it, my very own fire starter Pokemon line for an India-based Pokemon region. Next, the water type starter. The theorized pattern for water type starters is that the water type starters are based on weapons. Yeah, this is also an extremely weak theory. However, I actually followed the theory for this one unintentionally. The water type starter is going to be an elephant Pokemon, based on Indian elephants. When designing this Pokemon, I realized something. Almost all of the water starters are based on real-world animals that have association with water, like water turtle, a water crocodile, a water mudkipper, water penguin, a water otter, a water frog, water seal, a water... Well, this is mainly based on a chameleon, but it could also be any water reptile. A water duck. I kind of understand why this is a thing, as aquatic animals exist in real life, but there are no animals in real world that are heavily associated with plants or live in fire. So it makes sense to make the water starter based on aquatic animals. The first stage is going to be a simple design as usual. There are two main concepts behind this Pokemon. The first concept is war elephants. In ancient history, people used elephants in wars. This included the Indians. So I wanted to make a war elephant Pokemon, but in a more modern context. I made this line based on modern military. The second concept is elephants shooting water using their trunk. This can be seen both in real life and in media. The middle stage Evo is a military soldier who uses its trunk as a gun. It holds its trunk like a gun, using its hand and shoot water. Looking back at it, I should have gone for a different pose for this. Like it is actually holding the gun using its hand, head slanted and aiming at something in the distance. This middle stage was the most interesting in terms of concept. I added a blue and white gradient on the ear throughout this Evo line, resembling a wave. I just noticed this middle Evo has the same tail as the grass starter middle evolution. I was not going for a robotic design, but the more details I added, the more robotic it became, so I went with it. In its final stage, it is going to be a war tank. This Pokemon is an Indian elephant and a war tank combined. The trunk of this Pokemon acts as the tank gun part of a tank. This Pokemon's signature move, Machine Gun Geyser, deals huge damage. However, if the user's HP is below 50%, then it loses its water type for the next 3 turns. This line of Pokemon is Water Steel type. This line of Pokemon is ferocious and can deal with enemies from a distance. However, they are still defensive Pokemon. This looks like a future Paradox Pokemon, which is not what I was going for, but I don't mind. I love how this Pokemon line turned out, the concept is interesting, and I like how the Pokemon designs turned out. Thank you for watching, see you guys in the next video.